a place so hidden in the forest that GPS gives up a mile before you even get close. I wouldn't have known about it myself, but my girlfriend Katie inherited a cottage there from her great-uncle, and we decided to spend a weekend fixing it up. We arrived late in the afternoon. The village had maybe 15 homes, most of them old and silent, with vines creeping up the sides like nature was trying to erase them. The people we passed were strange. They stared too long. No smiles. One man just stood on his porch and watched us until we turned the corner. The cottage itself was beautiful, in a creepy way, ivy-covered, surrounded by dense trees. But it had no electricity, no signal, and no neighbors within shouting distance. That night, Katie found an old journal in the attic, hidden beneath loose floorboards. It belonged to her great-uncle Thomas. Most of it was rambling nonsense, but certain entries stood out. One read, "The forest sings at night. Don't listen. They come when you answer back." Another said, "The villagers know. They feed it. Every month one disappears and no one speaks of it." I laughed it off. Probably just the rantings of a lonely old man. Katie wasn't so sure. At around midnight, I went outside to use the outhouse. That's when I heard it. A soft humming drifting from the forest, like a woman singing a lullaby. It was faint, almost like the wind, but it had a rhythm, a melody. I froze. It was coming closer. I ran back inside, locked the door, didn't say a word to Katie. She was already asleep, thankfully. Next morning, I went to the village store to ask around. When I mentioned the sound, the clerk went pale and said, "You didn't answer it, did you?" I asked what he meant. He leaned in and whispered, "If you hear the forest calling, don't hum back. Don't speak. Don't whistle. It remembers." I left without buying anything. That night, Katie couldn't sleep. She said she kept dreaming of someone knocking on the door and whispering her name. At exactly 3:03 a.m., we both woke up to 3 knocks on the front door. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't move. Neither did Katie. We waited. No footsteps, no sound. Just 3 knocks, then silence. Next morning, we found muddy footprints on the porch. Barefoot, small like a child's. I wanted to leave, but Katie refused. She said this was her family's home, and she wanted to at least finish cleaning up. That afternoon, I went to the woods behind the cottage to chop firewood. About 20 minutes in, I saw something hanging from a tree. It was a doll. Homemade. Twigs, string, scraps of cloth. Its eyes were made from tiny black stones, and its mouth was stitched shut. Beneath it was a ring of small animal bones. I grabbed my axe and left. That night, the humming came back. Louder. Katie heard it too. She stood by the window and whispered, "It's beautiful." I shouted at her to move away, but she just stood there, glassy-eyed, until I pulled her back. I had to shake her to snap her out of it. Then we heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. This time, the door creaked open. I had locked it, but now it was open just a crack, as if inviting us. Katie started humming. The same tune. I grabbed her and shouted her name. She screamed and clutched her ears like something was inside her head. We didn't sleep, just sat in silence until morning. At dawn, we ran. Didn't pack. Didn't look back. A week later, I called the local sheriff. Asked him about Wicker Hollow. He sighed and said, "People don't go up there anymore. Not since the disappearances. It used to be folks would go missing once in a while, then every full moon. Now the place is cursed. The forest takes what it wants." We never went back. The cottage was left to rot. But every full moon, Katie wakes up humming in her sleep. And at 3:03 a.m., I swear, I still hear the knock. Knock, knock, knock. I used to work as a night guard at a small rural high school in West Virginia. Farage High, they called it. An old red brick building surrounded by thick woods, with only one road leading in and out. The school had been around since the 1930s and hadn't changed much. Peeling paint, squeaky wooden floors, and old metal lockers that echoed if you breathed too hard. The job was simple. Patrol the halls from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., check the doors, monitor the cameras, and report anything strange. The first few weeks were boring. I'd sit in the main office, drink vending machine coffee, and walk the halls every hour. Nothing ever happened. But then I started noticing something weird. Every night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., the school bell would ring. Just once. At first, I thought it was a glitch in the system. I told the head custodian, but he just gave me a blank stare and said, the custodian's voice had a strange finality to it. That bell hasn't worked at night since 1998. I asked him what happened that year, but he just shook his head and walked away. That night, I paid extra attention. Right at 2:17 a.m., I stood near the main hallway. Ding. A single, loud chime echoed through the school. No lights flickered. No other sounds. Just a bell. Then, from afar into the corridor, near the old chemistry labs, I heard footsteps. Not fast, not heavy, just slow, steady steps, like someone pacing without purpose. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. I turned on my flashlight and moved toward the sound. The hallway was empty, but one of the lockers, number 308, was open. I hadn't seen a single locker open in the 3 weeks I've been working there. I walked up to it. Inside, taped to the back wall, was an old, yellowed photo of a girl. She looked about 16. Straight black hair. Pale. Sad eyes. No name on the photo. Just a faint smudge where writing might have been. I closed the locker, made a note of it in my log, and moved on. The next night, same thing, 2:17 a.m. Ding. This time, the sound of weeping came from the gym. I ran in, flicking on the lights. Nothing. Bleachers empty. Floor clean. But in the center of the basketball court, drawn in chalk, was a circle with a cross through it. It hadn't been there earlier. That's when I started digging into the school's history. Turns out, back in 1998, a student named Emily Griggs had committed suicide in the school. She was bullied relentlessly, and her parents had tried to sue the district for ignoring the warning signs. Emily had hung herself in the chemistry lab at 2:17 a.m., the exact time the bell rings. Her locker number? 308. I brought it up to the principal, an old man named Mr. Hensley. He immediately told me to drop it, said dredging up the past only keeps it alive. But the more he tried to silence me, the more I felt compelled to know the truth. On a Friday night, I decided to stay right by locker 308. This time, I left it open. At 2:17 a.m., the bell rang. The temperature dropped suddenly. My breath turned white in the air. Then I heard it, a soft whisper right next to my ear. Why didn't anyone help me? I spun around, no one there, but I saw a movement down the hall. A figure, a girl in a school uniform, walked slowly into the chemistry lab. I followed her. When I entered the lab, she was standing at the far end, facing the window. I couldn't see her face, only her long, black hair and slight frame. I took one cautious step forward. She turned. Her eyes were missing, just black pits, her mouth sewn shut. She raised her hand and pointed to the ceiling, where a long rope hung, swaying gently. Then she vanished. The next day, I handed in my resignation, but it didn't stop. On my final shift, I stayed in the office, refusing to leave. At 2:17 a.m., the bell rang louder than I'd ever heard it, and every camera in the building suddenly glitched. Except one. The feed from the chemistry lab showed Emily, standing in the middle of the room, staring straight at the camera. I never told anyone, but sometimes in my dreams, I walk the halls of Farage High again. The bell rings. Locker 308 creaks open, and a voice whispers, "Please, just one friend." In 2019, I volunteered with an environmental NGO that was researching deforestation patterns in a remote part of Louisiana wetlands near the Atchafalaya Basin. We set up base in a dense patch of jungle, cut off from all cell signals, with only a satellite phone and two-way radios to stay in touch. Our team included Dr. Helena Morris, the project lead, 2 field biologists, and me, an intern mostly doing grunt work like logging samples and carrying equipment. From the moment we got there, it felt Wrong. Not dangerous exactly, just unnaturally quiet. We'd expected animal sounds, bird calls, buzzing insects, but there was only silence. The trees were massive, thick, tangled things covered in moss. The air was damp and heavy. No trails, no paths, just green walls in every direction. We set up camp, and on the first night, Dr. Morris told us an odd thing. Locals call this place Le Bois Muet, the Silent Woods. They say it doesn't like visitors. She laughed it off, but something about the way she said it gave me chills. The first sign something was off came on day 2. One of our biologists, Tanner, went missing. He'd gone just 100 yards from camp to place a motion-triggered camera trap. We heard him on the radio, then nothing. We searched for 4 hours. No trace, no blood, no footprints. Just a camera, smashed to pieces, found 30 feet up in a tree. Dr. Morris filed a report using the satellite phone and decided we'd wait 24 hours before leaving. That night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to a soft clicking sound, like someone tapping a stone on wood. It came from just beyond the tent. I froze. The jungle was pitch black. Our fire had gone out, and the clicking grew louder, then suddenly stopped. Then I heard a voice whisper my name. It wasn't possible. No one else even knew me out there. Next morning, I told Helena. She didn't look surprised. She just sighed and said, "It starts with the clicks." She explained that Tanner wasn't the first. Years ago, a local boy had gone missing in that same patch of jungle. Days later, his brother came looking for him and never returned either. Villagers believe something lives beneath the jungle floor, something ancient, not an animal, not a spirit, just presence. I wanted to leave, but the other biologist, Drew, was too stubborn. Said we were close to something big, new fungi or plant signals or whatever. That night, Drew left the tent to relieve himself and didn't come back. All we found were deep drag marks leading into the underbrush, like something had pulled him face down into the green. Dr. Morris broke down. She confessed she hadn't told us everything. Years ago, she found a manuscript from 1904 describing a French explorer who had camped in the exact same spot. He reported hearing voices, seeing shapes in the mist, and eventually carving words into trees in a language no one understood before going mad. Helena had found one of those trees. It was still there. She took me to see it. Carved into the bark were symbols that looked like a mixture of runes and claw marks. But beneath them were English words, barely legible. The green watches. It waits for silence. Then it speaks. We left immediately. But the jungle didn't let us go. As we made our way back to the riverboat pickup point, I noticed something terrifying. The trees had moved. I swear it. We had marked them with red ribbons. But those same trees were now behind us. Every direction we turned, they followed. At one point, I found myself alone. Dr. Morris had been walking ahead. I turned a corner, and she was gone. No sounds, no calls, just a weight of thick green air and the crushing silence. I ran. Branches slapped my face. Vines snagged my gear. And then I saw it, a figure, crouched in a tree, pale, hairless, eyes like wet stones. It didn't move. It just stared, mouth open, not blinking. I backed away slowly, heart pounding. The thing tilted its head like a bird, then vanished into the canopy above. I kept running until I stumbled into a clearing with the river in sight. The boat was there. I was the only one who made it out. When I told the local authorities, they dismissed me, said the others probably got lost or attacked by gators. But I know what I saw. I've never gone near a jungle again, not even on TV. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. Click, 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 and then a whisper in the dark. You weren't supposed to leave. I've been a paramedic in Cincinnati for over a decade. I've seen the worst of humanity, gunshot victims, suicides, overdoses. But nothing prepared me for what happened on a freezing night in November 2021. We were on a slow shift. My partner Josh and I were parked near the river when dispatch came over the radio. Unit 42, Respond to Riverfield Medical Center. Code Blue, room 616. We both froze. Riverfield had been shut down since 2005. It was condemned after a funding scandal and medical negligence lawsuits. No power, no patients. So, how the hell did we get a code blue, a cardiac arrest alert, from that building? Josh laughed nervously. Probably a glitch. Dispatch must be messing with us. But protocol said we had to check it out. We drove through the overgrown driveway and parked outside the crumbling facade. The old Riverfield Medical Center sign was hanging loose, barely attached. Windows boarded up. Ivy covered most of the entrance. As we got out of the ambulance, I swear I heard something faint, a heart monitor beep. We entered through a side door we pried open with a crowbar. The hallway was pitch black, except for faint, flickering light coming from deep inside. The air was thick with mildew and something metallic, blood or rust. I couldn't tell. Jesus, Josh whispered. Smells like a crypt. We followed the light down a main corridor, past empty wheelchairs, broken beds, and shattered monitors. The building groaned with every step, like it was breathing around us. Finally, we found room 616. The door was closed, and a faint glow pulsed underneath it. Cold air seeped through the frame. It was icy, like a freezer door. Josh reached for the handle, but pulled his hand back. It's freezing, he said. Feel this. I touched the knob. It burned like dry ice. We exchanged a look and pushed the door open together. Inside was a trauma room, perfectly preserved. A clean bed, monitors humming, scalpel tray laid out neatly, oxygen tank full, and in the bed, a man, pale, lifeless, tubes in his mouth and nose, IVs hooked to empty bags. The monitor showed a flat line. Then suddenly, it beeped. Beep, beep, beep. Josh gasped. What the hell? He's coding right now. I tried to move, to check for a pulse, but my feet wouldn't respond. The man's eyes snapped open. Pure white, no iris, no pupils, and he gasped sharply. The monitor shrieked. Flatline. The lights exploded. Everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying outside, on the sidewalk. Josh was next to me, bruised but breathing. Our ambulance sat exactly where we left it. The back doors were closed. I checked my watch. 4:47 a.m. 2.5 hours gone. No memory of leaving the building. The dashcam footage? Corrupted. Nothing but static and white noise. Back at HQ, no one believed us. They joked we'd taken a nap and dreamt it all. But then, a week later, I got a call. It was from a nurse who worked in the hospital archives division. She'd read my incident report and wanted to show me something. I met her that afternoon at a county records building. She pulled out a dusty manila folder marked Patient Number 616, Riverfield Medical. No name, just medical records from 2005 and a doctor's note. Patient 616 showed abnormal postmortem electrical activity. Reactivation attempt failed. Remains held in trauma wing for ongoing study. That's not legal. Even in 2005, you can't experiment on dead patients. But there it was, clear as day. I asked her who the doctor was. She hesitated, then whispered, Dr. Alan Creel. He believed in reanimation. She showed me news clippings from that year. Patients going missing, families suing the hospital, staff resigning in waves. Then, boom, Riverfield closed, sealed, and never reopened. The real reason? They were trying to bring the dead back. I asked her if she knew what happened to patient 616 after that. She said the records just end, like someone deleted them, erased from the system. I stopped sleeping after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that man's face, those white eyes. Then, about 3 weeks later, it happened again. Josh and I were driving back from a normal call when the radio crackled with static. Through the noise, we heard it. Code Blue, room 616. We both looked at each other. We weren't anywhere near Riverfield, but the voice wasn't from dispatch. It was the same voice we heard in that room. Josh quit that night. He moved out of state. Doesn't answer my texts. I don't blame him. As for me, I'm still working. But I don't drive near Riverfield anymore. Because sometimes, late at night, when I check the monitor in the back of the rig, I see a name flash across the screen. Not a location, not a call sign, just a patient ID, 616.